Hello, everybody. Hello, and welcome to Honest HR Nitrous. I am Bill, the company's expert. Thank you for joining me today. This is the weekly live stream. Actually, I do it a couple times a week where we talk about job search, where we talk about resumes, careers, job interview questions, and some of the realities of job search, the different job search methods, and how it tends to go in the real world, which is not always the way it's cracked up to be. People are incompetent, people are rude, people are unprofessional. There's a lot of shenanigans going on out there, a lot of bad experiences people have. This is where we talk about all that stuff. So if you are seeing my face, you should see a chat box somewhere nearby. Get in the chat. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your reactions are, what you're struggling with, what you're wondering about, all that kind of stuff. And I'll help you out if I can. The title of today's episode, this is episode number 26 of Honest HR Nitrous, is Why You're Not Getting Hired. So we are going to talk about that. If you have experienced some setbacks, if your job search campaign is not going anywhere fast, or it's not going where you want it to go, or it's taking its time about it, get in the chat. Let me know. That's what we're going to be discussing. I have a couple of comments that I'd like to respond to that people have left for me, and I'm going to see if I can pull those up right now. Here we go. Okay, so this is from Jurassic Turtle. I'm going to see if I can make this a bit bigger here. Something like this. Okay, Jurassic Turtle says, the act of re-entering every detail of your resume into each and every company's website has to have its own circle of hell. Yes. I'm convinced all these companies hiring on job boards are just data farming. Okay, you bring up two awesome points here, Jurassic Turtle. The first point, okay, is you're talking about a company's data farming. Yes, this is a thing with fake jobs. Relatively recently, these have come into prominence because we're seeing more and more of them where companies are posting a job posting, and it looks like they're advertising for a job and they're accepting applications. And this is a known thing where some of those, although it appears to be a legitimate job, there is no job at the end of it. They are just doing it so that they will receive applications. Now, the reason why they're looking for applications is many and varied, but one of the more legitimate causes is to see the caliber of people that are out there, that are available, that are looking for jobs in case this company does decide to hire, okay? If they have an employee quit on them, they'd like to get a replacement up and running as soon as possible. And to further that aim, they're posting these jobs, which is misleading because it's not an active open role. It's just sort of a hypothetical job that we could be hiring for, but we don't know, right? There's other more nefarious things going on too. There's identity theft, and there's other things, all kinds of scams and stuff like that. So that stuff has been known. But you make a good point that that could be a factor at play. The other thing is that I'm sure a lot of you guys understand the real world situation where, as Jurassic Turtle was just describing, where you have to re-enter pretty much every bit of information from your resume into separate fields in a website or online application form. And it's interesting because at first sight, it might appear that the company asking you to do this is incompetent, inefficient, and they don't realize how inconvenient or silly it is to ask this of applicants, right? That's what it seems like, right? However, I'm here to tell you that there's actually something else going on there a lot of times, and that is that as tedious and as labor intensive as that process is, it's by design. Companies aren't completely stupid most of the time. they realize how inconvenient it is and how labor intensive it is. And so what we're seeing these days is this is a kind of reaction against the volume of job applications that companies are getting for a lot of online posted jobs, where now you post a job and you're getting inundated with hundreds and hundreds of applicants in a very short amount of time. And that's because it's so easy to apply for jobs on the internet. So as a result, you can easily apply for many jobs in a day. So everybody's applying. And then the companies now have a problem where you've got to handle this volume of job applications. This has led to the widespread adoption of things like applicant tracking software, where they're getting software to filter their job applications. So your resume is not getting read by a human until it passes the first 1 or 2 rounds of screening. It's usually read by a computer, right? Now, another reaction, instead of getting a computer to just handle this, is they're doing what we're seeing here, okay? Where they're asking candidates to go through this very laborious application process. And the idea is that only the applicants that are really, really interested in this specific job are going to submit themselves to this long, intensive process. So the process itself, by being so lengthy and tedious, is its own filter. So it's going to filter out a lot of people that would give up if they have to put a little extra work into the application, right? That's the theory. Now, I can't tell you how well this is working. I don't have any stats on that, but it's just yet another thing that companies are doing that it's like this endless game of cat and mouse between recruiters and, posted jobs and candidates, right? They're both the candidates are always trying to outmaneuver the companies, and the companies are trying to neutralize any advantage or workarounds that the candidates have. So that's the thing that's been going on for a while. I see there are 20 people here. Thank you for joining me today. Get in the chat. John McElwain is here. If I'm saying that right, I apologize if I'm not. John says, recently heard to leave off home address on resume. Idea was recruiter would look up your house and affect any offer. Any thoughts as to looking for a new job? It's not stupid. Like it's not terrible advice. I'm not sure if it might be overdoing it a little bit. I don't think you necessarily need to be paranoid about putting your home address on any of the materials you send in with a job application. Now, is it necessary that they know your home address when you're just sending an initial application? I would say no. Is it this thing that you need to include? Like you need to include your home address? I would say not. Like if you put, say, your city if you live in a city, your region of the city, like subdivision or whatever, that might be sufficient. You can maybe even put the city. I don't think that stuff really matters. If they call you in for an interview in your email communications or, at that point onwards, I don't think it's a problem for them to have your home address. You know what I mean? I don't think that they really need that until like the offer stage. Like if they're giving a job offer, then it's conceivable that they would need that. They would need to know where you live. That may not be an absolute requirement, but I could see that coming into play then. But before you even get to the offer stage, do they need to know where you live, like your exact address? I don't think so. Unless they're planning to send you like snail mail communications or something, I wouldn't see why they would need that. So it doesn't sound like it strikes me as possibly a little bit paranoid, but when you think about it, there's really no reason to include that information in the first place. So I think it's harmless. Yaya says, I'm now 7 months in career vids. Helped a lot. Okay, excellent. I can remember watching you all through my hiring process and even before bagged a job. Okay, well, great. If you're getting value from my YouTube channel, that's awesome. And thank you for letting me know. Michelle says, also have heard of that. I assume you're talking about John's thing with the home address. Yeah, like, I don't know. In this day and age, there's all kinds of shenanigans that people are pulling, and I don't know if that stuff was always there and we just didn't hear about it, but we're hearing about all kinds of new and exciting ways to scam people and, use their information for nefarious purposes. That's coming really into the fray these days. So, yeah, it makes sense that if you don't need to give out personal information, you don't advance it. If they ask for it, sure, but you know what I mean? So yeah, like on your resume, I don't think it's a big deal to put to leave off your home address. I don't think that's a big problem. I think for a lot of, I could be mistaken, but I think for a lot of executives, you look at their resume, they don't have their home address on it. You know what I mean? Because your resume is a public document that can go out into the public. Some people create their own personal websites and post their resume on their personal website. You'll have like little videos of you talking or something, and they list all these accomplishments, and then you'll have your resume. So it's a public facing document. So putting your home address on there would be maybe a bit of a conflict with that. Even things like your phone number, depending on the deal. I don't know. So yeah, get in the chat. I do not have an agenda of what to cover in this. I'm just purely going off you guys' comments and reactions. That being said, I do have one more comment that I wanted to respond to that somebody sent in, and that is this right here. Let's see if I can make this bigger. How do you say this? Treleath says, I gotta adjust the buttons of my shirt or rubbing up against the desk here. Treleath says, in Europe, there's a sort of universal CV/job application system called Europass. So you don't have to do the company's data entry multiple times, even if they use the same applicant rejection system or applicant tracking system. That should be mandated here. I'm happy to customize cover letters, but I'm told they're not even looked at anymore. I wouldn't know anything about interviewing. I never get one. Okay, so there's a couple of points here I wanted to comment on. First of all, the thing about cover letters not being looked at, that's false. In some circles, they may not look at your cover letter. Like, they may not require a cover letter, or they may say, submit your cover letter, but they really don't look at it unless you get to like the final round of the job interview process or something. And then they kind of pay more attention to that. But they'll look primarily at your resume. But saying that nobody looks at cover letters is false. Some people do look at cover letters, they do require them, and they do read them. The problem is that cover letters are like a dinosaur. They're a throwback to an earlier time before the internet age, where if you were mailing your resume to somebody in an envelope and you put it in snail mail, if someone just receives an envelope with a resume in it, they don't know what it's for. They don't know why it's being sent to them. So you would have to include a letter to say, I'm applying for this job. Here's, who I am. Here's why I'm applying. Here's who this is for, and, what I want you to know. And just some pleasantries, like if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. Here's my phone number or something like that. So that was the purpose of the cover letter. Now, in this day and age, when you apply for a job online through a website or something, there really is no need for a cover letter. The person who receives the resume knows what it's for and knows why it's being sent to them. You know what I mean? So it makes the cover letter this thing that, like, there's no standardized version of it now. Different recruiters, different companies, they require it for different reasons. Some people want you to summarize your main points. Other people want you to add material that you didn't include in your resume, talking about your ambitions and your life goals and, what your opinions are about different things. So there's really no standardized cover letter anymore. It really depends on what industry you're in and the context. but it's false to say that nobody reads them. Okay. Coming back to this, I want to comment on this. Now, I don't know about this Europass thing that Treleath is talking about here, but here's my opinion of it. Yeah, you can standardize things. You can like try and make things required. The only real universal thing that you can try and force everyone into is things like labor laws, like minimum wage laws and things like that. Beyond that, just like you have the freedom as a worker to go work wherever you want, companies have the freedom to hire or not hire whomever they want. There's no law that in most countries that forces a company to hire someone that they have no use for. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of defeats the whole purpose. The only exception to that is in rare cases where a company has been given a ton of cash from the government, to prop it up or for some special purpose. Then the government might have the right to say, okay, well, we're on condition of giving you all this money. We need you to help us with our goals. And one of our goals is to get certain people hired and all this. So you have to hire certain people, right? But those are wild exceptions. In the vast majority of situations, and I'm speaking as a hiring manager and as a, someone who's owned companies, you can hire who you want, right? And workers can work where they want, everybody's got their freedom here, so the more that they mandate and they force you to do certain things, the more the system pushes back, right? If they make it super easy to apply for jobs, great. But then the system pushes back, like we talked about a second ago. The problem is if it's so easy to apply for jobs, everybody's applying to 500 jobs a day. They apply to jobs they don't even remember that they applied to. And companies push back against that by implementing things like applicant tracking software, right? To filter people out. So it all kind of works out in the end. So you can mandate, we're leveling the playing field and we're like we're forcing everyone to do this, but people are going to find ways around it. Like another example is, I know in the United States, in a few of the states, they've implemented laws about posting the salary range for the positions, right? Now in government, that's a special case. They have to do that. That's much more common. But out in the private sector, forcing companies to post a salary range, it's like, yeah, you can force them to put a range on there, but how do you enforce that it's the actual real range that you were thinking of paying? That's kind of hard to enforce. And in a system where you're innocent until proven guilty, how do you prove that that range that they posted was not strictly accurate? Very, very hard, right? And I'm speaking from the other side of the table. How do you know what companies were intending to pay? That's locked away in somebody's head. That's locked away in the boss's head. They were thinking of going as high as this. How would you know that? You don't know until they disclose it. And they can disclose something different from what their actual intentions were, So, it's a game of cat and mouse. So my point is that just by forcing people to disclose things, it doesn't solve a lot of problems. People still have the freedom to hire who they want. So the best thing to do is to make a really good case for yourself, and then people want to hire you instead of forcing them to do things. It's like saying to you, when you go down to buy something, like, I don't know, a car, should they force you to disclose how high you would go to pay for a car? You know what I mean? Yeah, you could give a number if they make it a rule. So you give them a number, but how do you know that number was honest, right? Much more difficult challenge. So the more you make things mandatory, the more, this is not an opinion piece. I'm just saying, the more you do this, the more the system seems to push back and neutralize these things. D. Snyder. D. Snyder again. Me and D, we go way back to the good old days. John says, my forever job ended unexpectedly working on resume. I'm sorry to hear that, John. Keep hearing about ATS scanner and format. Any tips? Yeah, John, I would highly recommend that you do a little bit of research on ATS, like getting your resume past ATS. Because here's the thing. The basic thing, like the sort of, version for dummies is keyword matching. What's common is that a lot of ATS software, applicant tracking software, or applicant tracking system software, what they'll do is they do some basic scans of your application. And what they'll do is they'll scan your resume and they'll look for keywords or key phrases. And for example, in the job posting, if they've said that we require 5 years experience in this, and like say a project, we need you to have 5 years experience as a project manager. We need you to have a project manager certification called a PMP, Project Management Professional, and we need you to have advanced communication skills. Okay? When they post this job, they can get like 1,000 applicants in like a couple of days. Okay? Because it's so easy to apply. So the pushback against this is they set up an applicant tracking system that whenever someone submits their job, the ATS system will scan their resume and only let it through if it has certain keywords in the resume. So if you don't mention PMP, that thing that they said they were looking for on your resume, they filter you out. If you don't mention project management or project manager on your resume, they filter you out, right? Because they said they needed you with experience in that role. You know what I mean? Like, that's what they're looking for. So the problem is that, as you probably know, there isn't a lot of standardized terminology out there, right? So let's say instead of, you're applying for a job as a project manager. Now, let's say you have 10 years experience working as a project leader, right? Project leader versus project manager. They're two terms that mean practically the same thing, right? But these people are using the term project manager. So the problem is that if you've got 10 years experience as a project leader, your resume may be filtered out, and it doesn't even get to the point where a human looks at it because you didn't have those keywords, the keyword being project manager. That was the lingo that this company's using, right? So that's like one type of practical problem that you run into, okay? So if you knew this, what you would do is you would revise your resume and you would change project leader to project manager, and then you'd pass. You'd pass the ATS system, and you get to a point where a human is actually looking at your resume, which is a step forward, okay? So bone up on this stuff. Like, do some basic research into ATS, how to get your resume noticed, how to get it not filtered out. And what it amounts to is that, where all of this is pushing people, it's pushing you in the direction of you have to customize your resume for every job you apply to. That's where this is going. Now, traditionally, that would be a problem because that's very labor intensive. Not everyone wants to do that. Most people don't. And if you do it, it really limits the amount of jobs you can apply for because you're spending so much time on each one, right? However, the new tool that everybody has at their disposal is AI. You have free tools like ChatGPT, and then there's a bunch of paid ones out there that are specifically tailored for resumes and things like this. And what that does is that allows you to customize your resume with very little work, like thinking work. You basically say like, look, take my resume and do a keyword, or write a new version of my resume that's keyword matched to apply for this job. Here is the entire job listing. And then it will rewrite your resume and change project leader to project manager and so on, right? Automatically. And then create a new version of your resume, and then you just send that off, right? So that is neutralizing some of the roadblocks that companies are throwing up. It's this perpetual game of cat and mouse, right? And I did a collaboration with a few other YouTubers on this channel. We did a live stream with like 3 other YouTubers. And these people are currently working as professional recruiters, and they're telling me that right now, like about half of applicants are using AI tools and roughly half aren't. And the advantage really is with the people who are using the AI tools. They have an edge over candidates that are not using them. That's not coming from me. That's coming from recruiters that are actively, doing this stuff. This is their 9 to 5. Okay, so they recommend that, you take advantage of some of these AI tools if you're playing this game where you're applying for posted jobs where you have to go through recruiters. Now, there are other ways to get jobs. You don't necessarily have to go for posted jobs. In fact, I recommend you don't. There's a lot more promising things out there, like in the hidden job market. You can access those through various different types of networking. You don't have to worry about any of this crap, This is all irrelevant. This is not even the way most people get hired. Most people do not get hired by applying cold to companies through an internet job posting. If you ask the majority of people who currently have jobs, you ask them, how did you get this job that you're now in? What most people will say is not, I applied to an internet job posting. Most people will say is, I got this through some form of networking. Maybe I had a coworker in a previous job of mine, and they moved to this company. And I reached out to them and said, like, hey, I understand they're hiring where you're working. Would you be able to put in a good word for me? So they didn't get me hired, but they got them to consider me. And they considered me and they hired me based on my merits. But getting my foot in the door and getting them to take a good look at me, that was through some kind of networking activity, right? Or a lot of people, they reach out cold to companies, but not to the recruiters. They reach out to the hiring managers. They go to the boss and they say, hey, my name is X. I'm great at this. I solved this problem. If ever you're looking for someone at your company, if ever you're hiring for someone in this type of role, hire me because I'd love to work for you. I know you guys do this amazing work. I live relatively close by. I'd love to work for you. So that's all. Just keep me in mind. Have yourself a great day. Something like that. And you blast this out to a lot of companies around you that have potential to hire people like you. And you can land a lot of things that way. It's not that you're going up against 1,000 people head to head. It's that you're the only one that showed up. You're the only one that had the initiative to reach out and to do this. And they're seeing what you're like. This is like a preview of what you're like as an employee. You're professional, you're great to deal with, you're friendly, and you're good at persuading them. That's a lot more than they know about those 1,000 candidates that just applied to the website, right? So there's a lot of kind of things that are out there. And so if you're playing the game of applying for posted jobs, in this day and age, you need to tune into ATS software, like how to get around it. Make sure you're not filtered out. All the keyword matching and that kind of stuff. And then that leads you into learning things like AI tools, what ChatGPT can help me with, right? Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And just not to beat this to death or anything, but this, if you don't know, this is ChatGPT. A lot of people. I did a poll on my channel. It showed that 50% of people are using this in some capacity, and 50% of people are not using it at all. Right? Now, if you're one of those 50%, I would highly encourage you to check it out. It's free, just like Google, right? Okay. What I can do is, you know what? Let's do like a little bit of a experiment here. Let's see if I can get to Google here. I don't know, job postings. Like I just want some rough raw data here. I just need a job posting. Come on. That's not what I want. How about this? Something like this. Okay, so here's the job posting. There we go. Weapons engineering technician. Right on. So how do I see the actual job posting? God, you can tell I haven't done this for a while. I'm looking for the job description. Here we go. Full job description. So what I can do is I can copy this. Here, I'm gonna copy this whole thing. Come on. Here we go. Like this is all the details about it. Okay. This one's quite long. I don't know if it's going to take all of this, but required education, direct entry plan. Okay, so here. There we go. Something like this. Now, I'm sure this is going to be too long, but you would filter it. You do stuff like this. Okay, so you could say create a sample resume that would be perfect to get the following job. Okay, and then I put quotes in and we'll see. Okay, so bam. Now, here it's creating like just a resume, like it's creating the text of a resume. So what I could do is I could just copy, paste this, put it into a document, like a Word document, send it off, okay? Okay, now, I've only done half of what you would normally do. Like I've entered in the job description, but imagine if you change this. You changed, okay, so take my resume and then you include the text of your own resume in quotes, and then say, tailor it or edit it so that it would be perfect to get the following job, and then you include what I just included, the job description. So I've got my resume content in there, and I've got this specific job posting in there, and it will create a version of my resume that is keyword matched and tailored. Maybe it picks selective things and makes them more prominent or less prominent, that is tailored to get this job, right? Now, as you can see, this is taking me like a minute. Like if I was actually tuned into this and I had my resume, text handy, this would take me a matter of minutes, and I'd have a custom resume that I could just send off, and it would be customized for this job. So it would have a much higher chance of getting past ATS filtering and things like that. And then when a human looked at it, all the things that they've said they're looking for, those are listed on my resume all together towards the top, presumably. So when they start reading my resume, they're reading all the things that they're looking for. Bam, 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 bam. So I really look like a good fit. And then maybe all the stuff that I have that doesn't have anything to do with this job, that's all filtered out. So it's not being diluted by a bunch of other stuff that raises questions about, am I really a fit for this job? Stuff like that. So these are some of the powerful tools that we have. Now, there are very specific AI tools online that are very customized to doing resumes. That's all they do. Okay, so you get people that are using these, and that's giving them an edge, So I highly recommend, John and anyone else, you check this stuff out. If you're playing this game, these are the tools that can really give you an edge. Now get in the chat. Give me some stuff to react to or questions to answer. As I said, I really don't have an agenda of what to talk about specifically. I'm looking for you guys' comments and questions. The title, of course, of this stream is Why You're Not Getting Hired. So we can address that. Check out this course if you are stuck in your job search. You don't know what to do. What you're doing is not really working. Check that out. There's a link in the description box below this live stream to that course. That'll really help you. It's all my advice all in one place in a logical order with principle by principle with templates and that kind of stuff. Check that out. It includes also different methods of applying for jobs. It talks about stuff in the hidden job market. It talks about networking. It talks about networking mainly from the perspective of an introvert. I'm an introvert. You can do networking in a very extroverted way. You could go to events. You could cold call people. You can do all kinds of things. But in that course, I basically talk about the things you can do that introverts would like, because a lot of it is on social networking. You can set up things on social networking, reach out to people, discover people around you. Things like this. I want to do one more thing just because I got this web browser open. Okay, let's see here. Now, I've done this before, and I've done a video that shows this off properly, but here's something you can do, okay? If you've never done this before, this is a very basic kind of first step. So I live in the city of Winnipeg, okay? So I'm starting with Winnipeg. I'm going to Google, and I'm typing in Winnipeg, okay? And then I'm going to go to Maps, okay? So I'm at the top here, and what I've got is a big map of my hometown, right? Now, you've got a map of your hometown or your geographic region, wherever you are, okay? It wouldn't say Winnipeg for you. It would say whatever city you're in. And what you can do is you can start typing in the types of employers that would hire you or the types of skills. So for example, I have, like many, many moons ago, I got a degree in engineering. So, you know, let's pretend that I was wanting to get hired for an engineering type company. So I can type in engineering, okay? Now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to look for employers around me that could potentially hire me as an engineer. Okay, so I type that in. Now, if I zoom in, like, I don't know, let's pretend that I'm in the north part of the city here. You have to click this again, okay, and then bam, it like more stuff shows up. Now, so here, it's finding engineering companies. So here we go: BJS Engineering, SMS Engineering, Ishcom Engineering. Now, each of these, you can click on it, okay? And you can get their vital statistics. You can get their website. So you can go to their website and look if they're hiring, you know, that kind of stuff, right? You know, but like, okay, let's say, you know, it's not just one word, engineering. Let's say, let's pretend that I'm in the aerospace industry. Okay, so I've got some experience like doing engineering in the aerospace industry. So I could type in aerospace, okay? And this is a different search. Now, some of the results will be the same as what I just found by searching for engineering, okay? But like it's finding different stuff. So like here, Magellan, okay, here's a guardhouse if we want to work there. Maybe if I can zoom in here. Search this area. Okay, so it's finding some stuff here. So there's different companies here: Skyline Aviation Software, Standard Aero, they're a big company. More Standard Aero. This is all Standard Aero's like headquarters. I think Kelowna Flightcraft. Like each of these companies, you're finding a list of companies that are in the industry that you're in or that do the specific type of work. Now, what other companies employ engineers? I don't know. You could talk about repair. I don't know, or technology. Like that would probably be a better term. Say technology, right? Now, not all of companies that will pop up might be employing engineers, but some of them might, right? So I'm going to zoom out again, and I'm going to search this area for technology, and it's like, bam, it's finding even more companies. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking at what's around me, okay? What are the employers around me? Presumably within commuting distance, like if I'm going for a job that's not completely remote, you know, that have potential to hire somebody with my skills, So this is giving me a list of targets to reach out to, okay? So what I would do is I could like write down all the names of these companies, right? Now, what I'm not really set up to do here, and I'm not going to do, but imagine if you then combine that with LinkedIn, okay? LinkedIn allows you to do people searches. So if you know the name of a company, let's say, like, what am I looking at here? Let's zoom in. Okay, let's pretend that this is a potential employer for me. It doesn't look like it, but you never know. CRX Technologies, Inc. Okay, so what I can do is I can go on LinkedIn and I can do a people search, and I type in CRX Technologies, Inc. and I do a people search for Winnipeg, and that's going to give me search results that are individuals. It'll be people on LinkedIn that work for that company or previously worked for that company. And it gives me their position. So here's the owner, here's the CEO, here's, the director of engineering department or whatever, and here's the director of HR, something like that. So I've got 4 individuals. Not only can I see them and I can see their profiles, like their resumes and who they are, but I can also reach out to them and message them or send them a friend request or anything like that to connect with them. And I can get a message to them saying, hello, I'm here. I'm a kick-ass engineer. If you need someone who can solve this problem for you and you're looking, keep me in mind because I'd love to work for you. Right? Now, if I send that out to them, the chances are that most companies are not hiring an engineer right now. Right? But if I send this out to hundreds of people every day, like you saw how many search results that I was getting, like just by doing each of these searches. And if each of those companies have like several individuals in them, that's a lot of targets. You'd be busy for a while. So you send that out. Most companies are not hiring. Let's pretend that 5% of them are. Okay? They're hiring, an engineer either right now or shortly. And you just fell right in their lap. They're thinking of hiring an engineer. They're about to post a job. They got to find an engineer. And you show up and say, hey, I'm an engineer. I can work for you. Usually what happens is that people will investigate you first, right? They'll say, hey, maybe we should get together and talk. So it goes from there. There's a lot of things you can do from there. It just opens up. You could do informational interviews. You could just leave it as this message, and that's it, and do that in bulk. You know what I mean? So it just opens up. So there's all kinds of stuff you can do. Now, I did a video that I've been pushing on people. There's a link to it in the description box below called How Successful People Get Jobs. That's where I do a proper video where I take you through what I sort of took you through a moment ago, but I also go onto LinkedIn and I show you the LinkedIn part, and it goes a bit further. Okay, so check that out if this is interesting to you. This is how one of the ways to tap the hidden job market. It's something that introverts can easily do, because when you reach out to these companies and you get bites, it's like a referral. It's not like you're showing up and forcing yourself on them. It's like they're inviting you in, right? And it feels completely different to a job interview. They're actually interested to talk to you, and they're talking to you specifically. Right? You're not going in with a bunch of other people as candidates. So if this is all like new for you, you've never seen any of this before, check it out. Okay? There's a lot of different ways to get jobs. This is one of them. I talk about this much more in that course, by the way. That's why I have a course, because as you can see, there's a lot to go into. What do you say in your message? Who do you contact? A big rule is to not contact people in the HR department. You don't talk to the director of HR. You talk to the hiring managers. You talk to the boss. They're the ones that, will respond favorably to this much more often. What do you say? What can you say? There's so much to go into. That's why I put this in a course. So get my course if you're interested in that. But regardless of that, tune into this. Okay, John says, makes sense. Thank you. You're welcome, John. Youssef says, AI is excellent and has an answer for anything, but you can't use it at all times like, say, in an interview. You can't know all the answers or possible questions in interviews. How can we approach that? Well, what you're asking, Yusuf, is how to do an interview, like how to kick ass at interviews. That's the entire purpose of my YouTube channel. So, I disagree with you can't know all the answers or possible questions in interviews. You can't know all possible questions in interviews, but you can know what to say to any question that they ask you. You do that through a combination of preparation and practice, and then you have fallback answers or fallback ideas. So if they ask you about something and you can't, it's unanswerable for whatever reason, or you don't have a good answer for it because you've never anticipated it, you have fallback answers, right? For example, a common one is to fall back by talking about, like, speaking to the job requirements. So, I don't know if I want to give an example. It's going to be long, but recruiters care about requirements. They said, we're looking for someone with this. So if they throw a curveball at you, they ask you some like retarded, like convoluted question that you've never considered because no intelligent person would ask something like that. You can always fall back on talking about how you have the requirements that they mentioned, or one of the requirements that is related to the question they're asking. So, for example, like, I don't know, let's say they say, like, what would be a convoluted question? I don't know. I'm drawing a blank. I've been doing live streaming too much today. my brain is mush. But they ask you a weird question that you don't understand. You say, like, well, I think in that type of situation, what's important is that you have the mechanical skills to do the job and you have the experience. If you have the experience, you will know how to handle situations like that and other exotic situations that may arise on a regular basis. That's just the nature of work. You're going to be encountering situations that you've never been in. That's going to be occurring on a regular basis. And the fact that, I've spent 10 years in this business, the fact that I'm fully qualified to do this, those contribute in an enormous way to me being able to handle situations like these very, very efficiently and very, very appropriately. That's what I'd have to say to that. Something like this, right? So you're like, I'm just trying to do this off the top of my head. I can't even think of a question. But in my answer, I reiterated the fact that I have this and I have that, the two big things you're looking for. And I'm putting your mind at ease that this thing you've brought up is not going to be a concern. I've dealt with many things like it. New situations will constantly keep coming up in the future. That's the nature of this world. There's always change, but we adapt to change, and having a big experience base and having, being fully trained in this role really helps you to handle those things properly. So that would be an example of like a fallback type answer. So whatever they ask you, even if you don't even understand what they're asking you, you could still say something that makes you look really good. It still does answer the question, right? And it doesn't give the impression that, you're out of your comfort zone or that you might not be able to handle something well, right? That's how you do this stuff. You prepare, you practice, and then you anticipate questions. And if you don't understand something, you have several different fallback answers for different types of questions. So whatever happens, you're going to be ready. Nita M says, I was taught that you can list keywords from the description at the bottom of the resume so you can get through to actual human. Is that still something people do? That has a name. And I did a couple of years ago when more people were into shorts on YouTube. I did a short talking about that. Yeah, what a hack that people did like 5 years ago or 10 years ago or something was you would take the entire job description, you would copy paste it. At the bottom of your resume, you would make the text like font size 1 or something, like super small. and you'd color it white. The font color was white. So white text on a white background means invisible. So when a human looks at it, they can't see it. They don't know anything's there. But when an ATS system, like a machine, scans it, they pick up on all that text. They see all the same keywords that were in the job description. And a lot of times that would count as a match, so you would pass the ATS filter, right? There was a name for that. One of these recruiters that I do collaborations with knows, they told me the name recently, I can't remember. It was like white paging or something like that, or white spacing, some name like that. It's a known thing, and it's been done. Now, whether it still works, I don't know. Maybe it might, but I can tell you that a lot of companies have wised up to that. So I'm guessing that their ATS systems might be smart enough to detect that and not let you through. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that easy, right? You could do that once upon a time. Right now, I'm not sure if that still works. I'm sure it works some of the time, but a lot of the time it doesn't. That would be my guess. But that's just purely a guess. Try it. See if it goes anywhere. Stephen Shard says, do companies have a means of detecting whether an applicant have used AI tools to enhance their resume? Can applicants be eliminated for using AI tools to outcompete other candidates? That's interesting. You've got two questions. Let's answer the second one. Can applicants be eliminated for using AI tools? Imagine this was 20 years ago, and you have a word processor that has spell check and grammar check on it. These are some of the tools you're using. Whereas other job candidates don't have those tools at their disposal. So they made a couple of typos, right? Have you heard of a case where the company is going to come back to someone and says, well, wait a minute, you've got spell checker and grammar checker, haven't you? So I'm sorry, you've got an unfair advantage over the other candidates, so no dice. You're done, you're eliminated. No. Now, let's answer the first question. Do they have a means of detecting whether an applicant have used AI tools to enhance their resume? No, not directly, because you're using AI. Look, I'm not an absolute consummate expert on AI. I use ChatGPT. I use several other AI tools. I'm reasonably familiar with them. ChatGPT is the big one. And what I've learned about ChatGPT is that if you just give it very simple instructions, it usually returns something very generic and not very good. If you revise it several times, you say, okay, now add this, or now do it more in this style, or less of this and more of this. Like, you're refining it. You can get it to the point where it's substantially improved over the first version. And then, as a final step, if you want to sort of like tweak a couple of words so it sounds more human, sounds more, there's a bit more character, that's probably the icing on the cake. And I would say that it's practically impossible to detect that something was created from AI if someone has done it properly. Now, I went back to university. I was teaching people in business school, and sort of the last couple of years that I was doing that's when AI first started coming in. ChatGPT was just coming in. And so students were using things like ChatGPT to do their homework and assignments and things like that. So being an instructor, I had to correct all these people's assignments and stuff, and very tedious, by the way. But like, a lot of people were using ChatGPT in an extremely basic way. And if you do that, like they were saying, like, you just give me an answer to this, do homework, and then they'd like put in all the questions and it would just give you the answers. They'd copy paste it, and there you go, it's submit it, right? And yes, you can detect that because it's not very sophisticated. It sounds like a robot and it gets things wrong. So yes, I could detect it. I could tell exactly what they're doing. But as I said, if you don't act like an idiot and you put just a little bit more effort into it and you refine it a little and you do several iterations with the more complex instructions, then as far as I'm concerned, it can be practically indistinguishable from something a human wrote. It can be. It doesn't mean that it will be, but it can be. And I would, like, what we're seeing, my opinion doesn't matter. What we're seeing is people are doing it and they're using it successfully and they're passing, you know? So that's the only thing that really matters. It doesn't matter what my opinion is or your opinion. It matters what's going on out there. And people are using it successfully. And it's getting past filters and it's getting them jobs. You can't bypass the thinking work, but you can bypass the mechanical work and get it to do all the mechanical work for you. And as you can imagine, once you come up with like a sort of algorithm, like take this, put it here, make it more like this, make it more like that, eliminate this, make this more prominent, match their keywords, match this, match that. Like once you have your little algorithm there, your process down, you can do that for like every job you apply to, right? And it'll produce an endless string of customized resumes and cover letters and things like that you can use that will get you past ATS systems. It'll help you compete with people who are not using these tools, who are not customizing their resumes. You know what I mean? So that's what's going on out there. And I'm saying this because of my own experiences, but also because of what several prominent YouTubers in this space about how to get jobs have told me recently on my collaborative live stream called Career Expert Roundtable that we do on Mondays. These people work as recruiters. They're actually working for companies and they're working for clients. And this is what they're saying, they're seeing right now. Steven says, do companies have a means of detecting whether an applicant has used AI tools? Yes, we did that one. Okay, so hopefully I've answered both of those questions you asked there. But I know I responded to the second question, but I just want to say one more thing about it. No one's going to beat up on you for like making a good case for yourself, And the only people that do are idiots, like, you know what I mean? Like if AI as a tool is a problem, what about a computer in general as a problem? Like, how come you get to apply for this job when the person down the street doesn't have access to a computer? Isn't that a little unfair? What makes me think that I should consider your application when that person can't even submit one electronically? I'm going to require that you both submit one over snail mail and write it in crayon, Like, how far does that thinking go? You know what I mean? It's silly. It's like if you're tuned into this stuff more than the next person, that's to your advantage. Now, if you're doing a crap job of like, using AI, you're like writing this resume that's insulting to people's intelligence because it's so obvious a computer did it because, you're not like putting any time into it whatsoever, then obviously it could backfire. But that's not the problem of using a tool. That's a problem with your effort. You understand? Harsha says, after a people search, how should I ask or inquire about job opportunities from someone that I don't know personally using LinkedIn? Do I directly ask about job opportunities and send a CV? No, I can't answer that. There's just so many principles I would need to go into to get you to understand how that stuff works. That's why I put it in a course. It's just not possible I can't even put this stuff in a video. I tried a long time ago putting it into a series of videos. I don't know if I want to necessarily promote this because these are very, very old. But if you bear with me for just like 10 seconds here, I'm going to try and pull up my YouTube channel and I will show you where I have a playlist where I tried to get into that. Okay, here. So let's see here. Okay, so this is my YouTube channel. This is like just if you go to my main page, the company's expert, right? Now, if you scroll down, I got some playlists here. There's this one here, how to tap the hidden job market. So if you click on this, there's like, what, 6 videos? I mean, these are like 4 years, it says 4 years old. So they're quite old, but they're still valid. Like, it's just that they're very basic videos. I shot them with a phone I had at the time and stuff like that. And I tried to break it down, like, concept by concept. It kind of didn't work because, like, everything you say, it just opens up like 10 other questions. And, you need to sort of address everything, or, so what I did was I went and I tried to address the simplest possible thing you can do to get a job using this method. And so check that out. I mean, that'll answer a lot of your questions. You may still have questions at the end of the day, but go out and try things, Don't just listen to advice, go out and try things. And that will be the best teacher, right? Okay, so you can do that as a start. But what I'd really recommend for everyone, not just because this is self-serving, but because this is really the best way I have, would be to get that course. If you want to really understand that stuff, get that course. It's all in that course. It takes a long time to go through that stuff, but you will learn so much. Stephen Shard says, very interesting insight. Thank you so much. It is concerning. I suppose candidates don't have to put as much thought into their resumes. You can keep asking the AI to enhance it. Well, no, you can't. You see, look, this is what I was talking about earlier about, like, can they detect AI? Like, AI is a dumb tool, okay? For all its trendiness and how everybody is saying it's like, the be all end all, it's not. It's just yet another tool. It's like a very, very fancy version of spell check, like that's really what it is. And, or like autocomplete, So it's not going to come up with like winning content for you. It doesn't know what you've done. It doesn't know anything about you. What it can do is it can take information that you've already written down about yourself. If you have a resume that describes you really, really well, okay? Now it can take that information and it can reorder it and reconfigure it based on instructions, like adapt it to this job posting, right? It can do that, but it can't create the content for you, If you say like, I want you to take this content about me and I want you to craft it in such a way that it's more persuasive, or it emphasizes these skills, or, something like that, then it can do that stuff. But it can't just like create a bunch of like, selling points from scratch for you. You know what I mean? So it's a tool. It's just a tool. It's not this be all end all. It's not this magic bullet. But if you have a tool and it's free and you have access to it, especially one that's so useful, it's probably a good idea that you should use it, or at least check it out, right? Because a lot of people are having a lot of success using this tool. So they now have an advantage over you. So check it out, see what it can do for you. Don't be afraid of it. Don't look at it like, oh, it's this whole new thing I got to get into. It's like, no, look at it as a good thing. I remember when the internet came out and I heard the same stuff that people are saying now about AI. They're saying, I won't use it. I'll never use it based on principle. It's a bad thing. It can never do anything for me. And anyone who uses it is either evil or a fool. That's what I heard when the internet came out. I heard that again when social networking came out. Just fear, And that's what people are now saying about AI. I got comments on my YouTube channel. People commenting saying, I've never used AI. I will never use AI. AI is for idiots who don't know how to write a resume. I know how to write a resume, so I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way. Like, okay, hey, look, to each his own, to each their own. But you're missing out. And it's not this horrible fearful thing that you think it is. It's actually very useful. Just like Google is useful, or at least it was, you know? Right? So check it out. And watch videos. There's other YouTubers that do a lot of videos specifically about AI and how you can use it to craft your resume. Watch some of those and pick up some tips. You know, you might improve your capabilities. Yeah. Harsha says, thank you. I will check out your videos. Good. Yeah, if you're wondering that stuff, that may answer some of your questions. Nita says, can ChatGPT be downloaded from the Play or App Store? I love the example you used with the resume. I don't know. It's a website. It's like Google. You're saying, can Google be downloaded, like as an app? Yeah, I think so. Like I have a smartphone and I have ChatGPT on it, so it's an app. So I'm not sure where I got the app. I got it from like the Android store because I have like a Samsung or whatever. But I mean, if you're just using a desktop computer or something, you don't have to download anything. You just go to the site, right? So hopefully you know how to do that. Just like you would go to Google. You go to google.com and there you go. You can start using it. Same with ChatGPT. Nita M says, got to keep up with the times or you'll be left behind. Yeah, you don't have to always be down with the latest stuff. Like the thing is, there's new stuff coming all the time. Like, for example, I've been to many, many trade shows in my time. You go to trade shows for like different industries. Like I remember one for the tech industry was CES that I would go to. And this was usually in Las Vegas. And it was like every company that made some new type of technology was there. And I remember seeing like 3D printers for the first time. I remember seeing like the 100-inch TVs for the first time. And like all kinds of stuff. Like 90% of what people were showing off were prototypes. So like there was some really cool stuff there, including some stuff that like it was a prototype, but then they never released it as a product. It never amounted to anything. And it's really a shame because there was some like really cool stuff there. But like most of that stuff never catches on. You know what I mean? Like, for example, years before Apple did the iPad, Microsoft had their tablet computer, you know, like their flat tablets, you know? And it's like, it was like 90% of what the iPad was, but like years earlier, you know? And I remember, you know, Bill Gates showing this thing off and, you know, it was like really exciting and I was really into it, but it never caught on. And I was like, why didn't this catch on? Nobody has tablets. You know, I want to get a tablet. Why can't I get one? And then years later, Apple does it. And then like everyone regards it as, oh my God, Steve Jobs is like such a visionary. It's like, yeah, he envisioned something that Microsoft had done, you know, years earlier. But only this time it was kind of sexier and it caught on, you know. And then they ended up owning that kind of thing for a while. You know what I mean? Like most stuff doesn't catch on. So there's a lot of stuff on the bleeding edge technology that's really cool. Personally, I don't keep up with that stuff. I used to keep up with that stuff when I was younger, but you know, you just get, after you see so many things come and go and they never amount to anything, you learn to step back a little and then you jump on board when it's clearly catching on, you know? And AI is clearly here. It's clearly a big disruptive thing that's here to stay. And it is useful and it can help you. You know, we're over that like period where it's experimental and it's only for enthusiasts and it's really buggy. It's like we're past that. It's here. It can help you and it kicks ass. Once you start using ChatGPT, in my opinion, you will never want to go back. You know? Personally, I think Google has something to worry about. You know? But that's neither here nor there. So I understand people being more conservative and not just wanting to jump in bed with the latest trends and all this trendy kind of stuff. But this is more than that. This is like a real shift. It's here to stay. It's where we're going. You really might want to take a close look at this one. Did I read this? Steven says, thank you again. I'm in my 20s, so fairly ready to take it on board. So long as we are putting in the thought and using it like an assistant, like Google, it's there to help. Yeah, it's a tool. It's nothing more than a tool. It's just a tool. But it's a useful tool. You know, it's like saying to yourself, I will never use a search engine on principle. It's like, that's kind of silly. That's just how silly it is to say, I will never use AI on principle. It's like, why? You might as well say, I will never use a hammer to hammer in a nail on principle. It's like, why? You know, I use a stone, you know, God damn it. That's how we did things in the good old days. You got a rock the size of your fist and you banged in the nails with that. In fact, your nails were made out of stone too, right? That's how you build a house, let me tell you. Right? It's just silly. It's just, people are going to laugh at you for saying that, like in 5 years, you know, including you. You will go, oh, you know, when they show video footage, documentary footage of you saying, I will never use AI, right? That's my prediction anyway. We'll see if I eat my words. Anyway, get in the chat. If you have anything else, any questions you're wondering or things you're struggling with, if your job search is not going anywhere fast and you're wondering what the hell is the problem and what can I do, let me know. Let's get into it. I've reached the end of the chat, so I need you guys to give me more material to work from. I have no agenda here. If I don't get anything in about 30 seconds, I'll probably end up winding down the stream. In the meantime, check out my courses. I've created my courses to help people. I've had a lot of people take my courses, which is really cool. So the most popular one is this one right here, how to get hired, because that's what I end up talking about most often. The second one I do is this. It's not super relevant to what we're talking about today, but this is if you want to learn business. I created that for business people. I'm a former CEO. I've been a business executive for years. I love business. My core competency is growing businesses. That's what I do. I've had to do hiring and firing and that kind of stuff in the course of my career. So I help people with that because that's where the demand is out on YouTube. But I created that for people who want to learn business. And if you want to climb the ladder, you want to get promoted into being a manager and all that stuff, check out this. Because that's the communication skills you're going to have to tack on to make yourself a contender for those types of positions. Technical skills are not enough. It's great that you have them. They're useful. They are required, but you need more than just technical skills to be in those roles. And this is the communication skills component. So check that out. That's the most recent of all my courses. Okay, we're not getting a lot of activity, so we're probably going to wind this down. Thank you for being here. You guys are awesome. Hopefully I've given you some food for thought today of stuff you can look into. And I wish you nothing but the best. Just remember, there's a lot of unprofessionalism and incompetence and just stupidity and inefficiency out there, especially when it comes to job search. So if that's getting you down, don't worry about it. You're going to be fine. You know, this is like usually the lowest point of our professional lives. You know, we're right at the valley, right at the nadir right here. And sometimes it can seem really pessimistic, but it's going to work out. It's just a matter of time. You know, you're going to be okay. You're going to land on your feet. You just got to ride this thing out. Do the best you can. Learn as much as you can. And go for it. And if you need any help along the way, I do these live streams every couple of days, so you can always come and ask questions. Bob says, thanks. You're absolutely welcome, Bob. Thank you for being here. Nita has one last question. I'm going to answer this one last question. Nita says, is it true that getting laid off makes it more difficult to get a job? I've heard it's better to be employed when getting another job. Yes, you're absolutely right. For a couple of reasons it is. Number one, you're coming from a position of security, right? You're not desperate. Presumably you don't have the pressing financial issues, right? Secondly, if you're going for posted jobs and if you're going through a recruiter, you're going to be up against a principle, another one of these principles that recruiters are taught. And recruiters are taught not to necessarily find the best candidate. What they're actively trying to find is the least risky candidate. That means the candidate that has the highest likelihood of working out, okay, being successful in the role. They don't quit, they stay, and they outperform. So it's all about risk for recruiters, right? That's why they care about things like years of experience. If you've been doing the job for 20 years, then you probably can hack it, right? Things like that. But one of the principles that they're taught is that if you're a candidate, but you're not currently employed, okay, there could be a reason why you're not employed. Like beyond just, you were laid off or something. There could be a reason why you're not working. Maybe there's something wrong with you. Maybe you have anger issues. Maybe you have a problem with your work ethic. Maybe you've been fired from jobs. Recruiters know that there's a good chance they will never find out the real reason why you're not working if you don't just disclose it outright. You might lie about your reasons why you're currently working. Maybe you were fired, but you say you were laid off. Or maybe you haven't found a job because you're so off-putting, in the recruitment process or something, which is not good. That's a sample of what you'd be like on the job. But you don't disclose this. You lie about that. You say, no, I was laid off, right? And all my previous bosses and coworkers, they all love me, right? So recruiters know that they can't get to the bottom of this. So they simply say, okay, if you're not working right now, there's a higher likelihood that you might not work out because maybe there's a reason why you're not working right now that's relevant that we don't know, right? It's all about risk. So that principle counts against you. But the good news is that principle, that doesn't apply to your networking efforts, and it doesn't apply to the stuff that I talked about a lot in this live stream, which is more of like the hidden job market, where you're reaching out to companies and things like this. You negate things like that by reaching out to companies. You are showing them like you are capable. You're not talking about how capable you are. You're demonstrating how capable you are by reaching out to them. You're demonstrating how professional you are, how personable you are. And if you have a conversation with the person, you're demonstrating your technical knowledge, and your charisma, things like this. Like all those things, they negate principles like this, right? So it makes it a little bit more difficult, but not impossible. And it is possible to not tip people off that you're currently not working, so that it doesn't even come up. It's not that you lie about it when asked. It's just that it never comes up. They don't suspect that, so they don't ask you about it, so there's no issue. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps. Anyway, thanks everyone. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.